Again, my name is Darius Lewis. Thank you for having me here. Who am I with today?
I'm Officer Sarah Fry, the Brooklyn Center Police Department.
And how long have you been with the police department?
12 and a half years.
And how has that enjoyment been?
Good.
And as an officer, what are some of the tough things that you deal with on a day-to-day basis you feel that you go through?
I feel our current trend, probably our most trying thing has been kind of the epidemic with the crisis interventions. We have a lot of adults out there, a lot of calls for service that are increasing for adults in crisis.
And what got you into becoming an officer when you first started out?
I wanted to help people.
How did your family and friends react when you became an officer? You say
My parents were proud, but I think they were worried that something could happen to me. As a whole, I think my community that surrounds me, friends and family, are very supportive of the career I've picked and are proud.
And where do you see the current climate with policing and community going? Do you see it actually working out in favor of bridging the gap, or do you continue seeing the troubles happening in the longevity of policing and community?
I think we're bridging the gap. I know in Brooklyn Center we have a pretty good relationship with our community. I'm not seeing, if anything, I'm seeing more supportive citizens coming forward, wanting to buy snacks in line or coffee, thanking you for your service. Parents bringing their children to be introduced. So I think that we're improving the relationship with our citizens.
And I agree. I've been with part of the Multicultural Advisory Committee for about 4 years, and the fun things I've interacted with policing and seeing how you guys actually work with the community is having open dialogue. Were you a part of the recent community ones we had at the high school? Did you hear about those at all?
I used to be an SRO for a while,
cool.
so I was active, but gosh, that was many years ago. So any recent activities over at the school I haven't been involved in.
All right. And what was your favorite thing about being an SRO at the school? What did you learn most?
I enjoy interacting with the youth. It's just been a very natural thing, maybe because I'm a parent.
All right.
I think it's very rewarding. All these years later, I've had students come up while I'm currently assigned to patrol, hugging me, thanking me. It's a very unique experience to kind of be able to have a relationship instead of just taking a call for service, helping someone, and then going on to your next call. So you're permanently there for a period of time, which allows you to develop these relationships with these youths, and then you watch them go on to be adults, and it's very heartwarming.
What would you say are some of the difficulties that you've seen inside the schools from the police officer's perspective that show there's a friction between the communication between us two?
I think that there's always some barriers that exist with police. It just depends on maybe they've had one negative interaction and then therefore they believe that all police interactions will go this way. Or maybe some parents, at sometimes have said, I'm gonna call the police on you, which, they might just be an empty threat to try and get their kid to do something that they don't want. But that child may think that the police are scary. More of the active roles that we take in the schools and these activities. I've played soccer, some things with the kids. They allow us to let the kids see that we're human, that we're mothers, we're people. It's been very effective. It's something that I'm absolutely supportive of.
When I was growing up, I went to school in Burnsville. We were having a conversation, and we had Officer Perry. And Officer Perry was a person that I connected with, and she connected with a lot of the kids, where when I had an interaction with police officers, it wasn't in a negative way, where I was more of a defendant, defending the police officers because I had a personal relationship with some. Like, they're not all like that because, again, like you say, they're all human. So I definitely agree with you. Is the job what you envisioned to be when you applied for it?
I would say yes and no.
And why yes and no? What were your expectations when you started out wanting to be an officer?
Honestly, I don't think you ever really know. You know you're gonna help people. You know that you're gonna be put in very hard situations. I've cried on duty. I didn't think I would. Your emotions are real. It's just the best job in the world. You are put in situations that are scary, they're challenging, sometimes stressful. However, when you genuinely can help a person, I don't think you can put a price tag on that. So
I agree. Why do you think police officers are misunderstood, or why do you think you feel there's a misunderstanding in it at a national level or even locally?
I think because we're in a position of authority and we come on, we're assessing, we're almost stressed out. We don't know if we're going to be harmed, so our personas may be cold, callous, direct. And once we take control and we feel safe, then all of that kind of goes away and you can see the human. Now, sometimes people just see that snapshot when, we're there, and they only see the take charge. They don't get to see us carrying the kids out or playing soccer or, speaking with the victim for hours on end. The follow-up after with the victims to make sure that they're okay. All these other things that are really amazing what we do are the things that I think sadly are missed.
I agree with you. Do you feel that media sometimes can portray it in a negative light rather than show the genuine things that you guys do as a whole?
Unfortunately, I do think we get painted negatively at times. Maybe that's just the society that we're in. Maybe that's just the clip that they get. Unless you're really, really there, it's hard. As police officers, we gather the facts. We're never really quick to make a judgment because we're just exposed to such a different kind of aspect of the world. So I think if you just see a clip, sure, if that's all you get to see, that's all the people get to see. So, I think unfortunately sometimes it can be negative, but I think that there's a lot of positive out there still too. And like I said earlier, I've had such a wide range of people always thanking us. So I think that should be noticed, that there's a lot of good people out there who have really stepped up and just made us feel important. So.
And what are some of your most favorable moments as an officer that you would say you have had so far? Either whether it's going out into the community, having a park interaction, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned in it, just doing so?
I think probably my most rewarding stuff has been with the kids. I've read to kids, which is always fun at the schools. All of those things are fun. The parades and all those things are super fun. But I saved a life once, and I got to shake her hand a year later. Probably hands down the most amazing feeling, knowing that I did CPR on somebody who was clinically dead and came back. I don't think that there's anything that can really top that. That was amazing. So there's a lot of things, I guess.
I love that. Is there any questions you want to bring to the table?
How are things being addressed as far as issues that the public brings to the table, like how police react to certain things and situations, and how are police actually held accountable during those processes?
Our administration would be somebody who would handle those types of things. That wouldn't be something as a patrol officer.
Right.
However, our sergeants, our administration, we've done a lot of proactive things like coffee with a cop, shop with a cop. We're doing our best to get out into the community and try to bridge that gap the best that we can, as creative as we possibly can be. So,
obviously, like you mentioned earlier in the interview, policing the community, but also being a part of the community helps the citizens be more at ease that you guys are actually out there doing a service for them and not doing it just to protect yourselves.
Yes.
Pretty much so.
Is this your first time having interaction with police officers?
I know I've actually had a few, not in a too negative light, but a few times out of state, and it wasn't pleasing at all. Me being who I am and understanding that just because one person that's in a position of authority does something bad doesn't necessarily paint the rest of them all bad. But I can see why a lot of people would think, if that person's like that, imagine how many other people are like that. So it's just about having that open communication and dialogue and keeping it going that, pushes the needle or pushes the thread in the opposite direction of painting the police in a positive light. I'm actually glad we had this.
Yeah, I only say that because not everyone's comfortable.
Yeah.
I've seen faces around. I know Tim and Monique and people. So my comfortability with officers, not only with this department, I know people in St. Louis, Crystal, and so it's branched out where I know they're buddies to me here and there. But when I bring people to the table, I'm like, hope you're not too scared. I mean,
Oh, no. I was not scared at all. Yeah, I'm very respectful. It just kind of sucks though when you're put in that position as a citizen. If a police officer is really going past the legal boundaries and whatnot, what do we do as citizens in that situation? It's kind of difficult for us to kind of react and do we protect ourselves? Do we, that's kind of what I worry about sometimes in that situation. But I'm not saying that it ever will happen, but if we ever are put in that, what do we do,
The one thing I've learned from police officers, or my interaction, most officers are educational. They're educators.
Yeah.
And they're just here at times really there to educate and bring people aware of what you did wrong, remind you why you were pulled over, and seeing if you. And I'm a speaker, so I'm always trying to hold myself accountable. So it's like, did I not, or did I, you always have to second guess yourself. I have my fears with police officers. I still, to this day, whenever I see an officer, sometimes my ears pop. I don't know if it's my own little, driving in my car, my ears pop, which is like my heart drops. And it may be some little weird thing because I'm a brother in a car, I don't know. But I've had my own little dilemmas, so I understand.
Yeah.
I can tell you when I'm driving my car and I'm not in uniform and I see a cop, I instantly look at my speedometer also. Yeah. So again, this has nothing to do, we're all human, we do it. It's just a natural response. I guarantee you, everybody can say, you're like, oh no, am I speeding, am I this, am I that?
And why do you guys think we feel that way when the genuine construction behind policing is to serve and protect, and where back in the day, you saw a cop, back in the old 50s and 60s. They were nice. Oh, hey, how's it going? And you saw one, you waved at them. But nowadays, you're fearful of it. What do you feel that the climate's changed? That
I don't think it's everybody. I think some people are fearful, some people aren't. I think that natural response to check if you're speeding is because you're human, and you might be. Yeah. And we have laws, and we all know that there's rules. It started with our parents. They taught us rules, we had to listen. Then we went to school, there was rules. Then we get to be adults and there's laws. We're all very well aware in our country, there's many laws. And at any given time, any of us can fall, to break a law. Now, that's just part of being human, it's error. So, if I'm speeding, does that make me a terrible person? No, Am I fearful that I'm gonna get a speeding ticket? No, I'm not gonna get hurt. Is that gonna stink because I have to pay a fine? Yes, I'm not gonna be happy about it. So these are all just, I think, different levels. I think fear sometimes can just be instilled because somebody told you a story and it wasn't even an experience. So I think really some people genuinely are fearful, but they could have a million different reasons why. So everybody, again, is an individual and has a different experience in life, so.
If there was one thing you could say to the world about policing, what would you say to the community member in general? What would you say?
I would say it's just like any other interaction with any human being. If you're respectful, they're going to be respectful. I've been policing for a long time, and I don't have a lot of problems out there. But I'm very respectful, I'm caring, I'm happy. But I've had people who they're not that either. I think that we all just need to treat others the way that we want to be treated. And if everybody really genuinely did that, it'd be pretty simple interactions throughout the day.
It would be less violence.
Yes, a lot. Nobody wants to go through that. So.
It's true.
What happens if, let's say, a specific law, obviously slightly outdated, but it's still the law? Where does that come into play where you have to enforce it, but morally that it really feels like it's wrong?
We have some discretion. When there's person crimes, then we don't.
Okay.
We have a duty to protect people. If somebody has exhibited a behavior that's violent or dangerous to other people, our discretion, it's non-existent. Then we must protect the public.
Right.
If it's something more simpler, we have discretion. And even the public does. So if my neighbor breaks into my house, my neighbor kid, and he steals my television, and I don't want to prosecute against Jimmy, that's my choice. But if he hurts somebody, then I can't say, okay, I can ignore that and give him a pass and hope he doesn't do it again.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
jaywalking.
Correct.
Not that serious.
But it can be.
Correct.
And so you might want to step out with some of the kids across the school.
Oh yeah, they run
Yeah,
across the
we
street.
had a
yeah.
child get hit and killed. It can be dangerous, and sometimes it's an educational piece, like you said. Now some people might view that as harassing. When you genuinely are a parent and you see this and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to try and talk to this child about crossing the road safely because I don't want him to get hit. Again, perceptions are perceptions. We can't really ever take that out of the equation. You can only act with the goodness of your heart and, make those decisions.
In that discretion, I think that's where a lot of people in the public kind of, whether they're on one side trying to push the boundaries and see what police will do, or if they're genuinely just like don't realize that they're doing it.
And sometimes just talking to that person, you'll know right away.
Right, yeah.
They'll be like, oh my gosh, you're right, I'm sorry. Or they'll be really angry and, you just, those interactions, you can only do the best, If your intentions are good, hopefully it gets you through the day and, you've done more good. I mean, that's just, I guess, all you can really do, so.
Go fight crime.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, yes, thanks guys.
Thank you again.
Okay, yep.